Yeah, we are live. Hi everyone, welcome to TechMaestro. My name is Karan, and today I have Alok with me, who is a SD at RazorPay. And in this interview or in this session, we'll talk about all about RazorPay interview process. We'll discuss about like what are the different rounds for different level at RazorPay, what are the expectations of these rounds, and then we'll talk about how do you ace and how do you ace your overall interview at razorpay. So I have Alok with me. He'll give you tips and tricks about the entire process and how can you actually get selected in razorpay. First of all, welcome to the session, Alok, and thank you so much for doing this. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Karan. So I am Alok, as Karan just said. So I currently work at Razorpay as a backend engineer. I started at Razorpay somewhere around 8 or 9 months from here, right? Before that, I worked at Samsung Research, right? I was mostly working here in uh, the Android team where I was working on building the core contacts application, right? So yeah, and I am a 2019 graduate from Thaba University. So yeah, that's a little bit introduction about myself.
Thank you so much, Alok. To
Yeah.
add on to what Alok said, like he's a very seasoned engineer. I've known him for quite some time now. He's one of our interviewer at TechMaestro community. He helps us conduct mock interviews. He takes really good interviews at the in the community. And just to add on, apart from that, he takes regular classes like TSA and all classes with different well-established companies. I'm not going to take name, but they are very well known in this entire preparation industry. So he is a very he from what I know and from all the time that I've known Alok, he's a one very seasoned engineer. Apart from that, he knows the process end to end for multiple companies apart from Razorpay. So thank you so much, Alok, for coming. So
Yeah.
in this so as a starting point, Razorpay, although we all know about Razorpay, is one of the biggest. It is one of the biggest payment gateway, but we don't know anything beyond payment gateway. So why don't you just introduce a bit about Razorpay, and then we can jump into the uh, SD process and all.
Sure. So yeah, whenever we hear about Razorpay, this payment gateway comes to our mind, right? Because we see Razorpay whenever we do a payment on Swiggy, Zomato, and all that, right? But like within the past few years, we've grown like more than just being a payment gateway, right? So there are products like X Payroll, right? Razorpay X, right? So Razorpay X, I'll talk a little bit about Razorpay X. That is somewhere I work, right? And it is something that has started like in the just 1.5 or 2 years, right? So
Okay.
Razorpay X is a platform for businesses, right? So all the businesses have some work with the bank, right? And businesses know that it is not as like if I have a savings account in a bank, right? It's a very normal thing. I just have to do transactions. I can use it on my app. But banks have a lot more work. Businesses have a lot more work with banks rather than just normal transactions, right? And we all know that banks are not very fast, right? So this gap, bridging the gap between how a bank works and giving the businesses that seamless experience is what Recipe is working on, right? And
Okay.
we have like so many merchants on our platform right now that we are helping them solve these banking problems. Like it could be related to like a dispersal of salaries, right? You don't have to think about it, right? You don't have to think about, okay, I have this limit of only thousand. I can only do 1 lakh of transaction or something like that, right? We handle all that part, right? Or it could be related to your account statement and all those things, right? So any work that a sorry, a business has with a bank is something that they is solved here at Razorpay X, right?
Okay.
And
Understood.
yeah, and then there's the payment gateway size, which is like the which is like one of the largest payment gateways in India, right? We already know that, right? So yeah, and we are also launching a few more products that I personally came to hear about from LinkedIn only, right? So there's something called Razorpay Rise, right, which
Okay.
is onboarding early stage startups, right, and helping them in all the work that they have to do, like related to like registering the company, right, related to all small things that so that the businesses can focus on their idea and not on all these things, right? So yeah,
Understood.
that's pretty much about it.
So, just for the person who is watching this video, so we started with the introduction because there are a couple of reasons. So, in the later stage of this entire interview process, or in this video, you'll realize that there will be a time when Alok will be saying, "Do your research about Razorpay," because that will help you. And this will, in just 5 minutes, you at least got to know what Razorpay does from the person who is working at Razorpay. So this is very important. So you may be thinking, yeah, I came here to understand the SD process, and you're talking about Razorpay. What is this happening, right? So we just started with this brief introduction so that you have the basic understanding of what Razorpay is doing. And personally, I think it's a really amazing company. There is a very good ecosystem that Razorpay is building, and apart from that, the value that these engineers at Razorpay get is pretty good. So you should definitely try if you get an opportunity at Razorpay. So moving to the main part of this entire interview, I want to know like what is the role of a SD at Razorpay is exactly.
Mhm. So I'll talk about like what my experience has been and what I have learned and seen about like what Razorpay is, right? So I'll maybe also talk on and like extrapolate on what you just said, right? So I came from a like well established company where with, like Samsung Research, right? And coming here, I saw a lot of difference in like the ownership that you get, right? The responsibilities that you get, the kind of work that you get, right? So there is no hierarchy and everything, right? You are able to pick any project that you want, right? So I know that whatever I have requested or shown interest in the past 7 8 months, I've eventually started working on those projects, and that is something that my team has taken care of, right? So that is something that I really appreciate here at Razorpay, right? And moving forward to talking about what is SDE, and SDE is, I would say, like what I've seen and what generally I've seen is that people work on building APIs, right? APIs and like having product related discussions, right? Working in cross platform teams, right? It could involve anything. Like it's not very limited to you'll be just coding and all that, right? You have to be very like proactive and everything, right? Because like ownership is something very like appreciated. When I came to Razorpay, I was told that this is the expectations that they have from me, right? And
Okay,
ownership was one of them, and I personally loved when I started owning modules, right? That people used to come to me to ask anything which is failing in that particular module, right? Or all the like that understanding when it comes now, it's really satisfying that okay, you understand the system end to end, right? So I would say that yeah,
makes sense.
it's a good mixture of work as well as life and like the kind of satisfaction that someone wants as an engineer from work, right?
Okay, got it. So even in my personal experience and personal valuation, so principles basically, I personally believe ownership is literally one of the most important characteristic. If I am hiring someone, let's say if I am hiring for my own team, this is
Hmm.
one of those things that I look at from the day one or in the interview process as well. uh,
Hmm.
Personally, I've seen like almost all the startups, they may overlook your slight misunderstanding or gap in knowledge, a slight gap in basic stuff, not important stuff. But ownership is something that will take you miles away from all those aspects.
Hmm.
So ownership definitely is one of those aspects, and if you are enjoying that, I'm pretty sure like you are on a very good path to become a very successful engineer someday.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's really nice. Thanks.
Okay. So moving on, so I would want to know like moving to the main gist of this entire interview and this entire session, what is the interview process at Razorpay for different level? Please
Mhm.
talk about like internship, a fresh grad, an SD1, SD2, SD3 to a level that you know, and to
Mhm.
the extent that you can share in a non-confidential and confident way.
Sure. So I'll start with an intern level, right? So for internships, I've seen that the roles are very limited, right? Because I am reached out for like referrals for interns and everything, and every time I contact my like recruitment head or someone, they say that we are already filled, right? And like the recipe is very specific with that, like they hire interns to the colleges that they visit, right? But
Okay.
definitely feel free to apply, right? Because there are chances that some team has some opening, right? So I would encourage you to still apply, right? But
Okay.
like when you apply now, the next thing comes up is like, okay, what's the interview process like, right? So the interview process is a little different from what you would expect in the top tech companies, right? So
Okay.
I think I know that the top tech companies interviews are mostly DSA heavy, right? For at least for freshers, right? So
Correct.
here at RazorPay, there would be, you can expect 3 rounds of interviews for an internship
Okay.
as well as for a SDE as a fresher, right? I'll talk
Okay.
for two things: internship as a SD or a fresher as a SD, right? The process is
Okay.
same. So first would be like a DSA round. Round one would be a DSA round where you'll have to solve a DSA question. It's somewhere around lead code medium head and medium hard, right? Like I've heard people saying segment trees questions and questions on like right. So it could be medium hard level of lead code, right? Second round, and you're expected to like come up with a solution, right? At least the optimized solution, right? I think even if you give like something is better than nothing, right? So even if you give some solution, I think you will be moved to the next round, right? So make
Okay.
sure that you are able to give some solution rather than nothing, right? But
Okay.
if you give the optimized solution, that's the best case, right?
Okay.
Second round is machine coding round, right? Also, one more thing, yeah. The first round that I talked about, it consists of MCQ questions as well, around 10 MCQs around computer science fundamentals, right? Operating
Okay.
systems, DBMS, right? These subjects, the computer science fundamentals are there, right? So you can expect MCQs also, right? Next is the machine coding round, right? So machine coding round is something which I see a lot of people don't know about, but I would say that it's pretty common now. Like companies like Flipkart, Udan, Gojek, all these companies have a machine coding round now, right? So it's machine coding round is a little tiring round, right? It's somewhere around 2.5 hours of you coding, right? And
Okay.
building like solving a design problem mostly, right? And you'll have to code it out. So if I have to give you an example, like design a multi-level parking lot system, right?
Okay.
So you
Okay.
have to start with listing down the entities, like what there would be. There would be a parking lot, there would be a car, right? You'll have to design the objects, the classes, the service layer, and everything, right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
few points that people do not adhere to in this round, and I would like to highlight them is that mostly what I have seen, like I've given machine coding rounds at a few other companies as well. So they'll give you that you have to build these three features. Like let's say you are able to park your car, you are able to move out a car,
Unpark.
all things, right? So they'll give you 3 4 features, and then they'll give you two bonus features as well, right? Like let's say you have to build two bonus features which are optional, but if you're able to do them, that's well and good, right? That's good. What people do is they start building, they'll start building the entities and everything, right? And they'll start writing the service layer, but they won't cover any feature to the complete, right? So they start like writing each and every module of that particular question half, right? And at the end they would have done everything, let's say 50 to 75%, but nothing is complete, right? So this is a bad thing, right? What you have to do
Correct.
is you have to complete each and every module that, like, first I would be like, I'm able to complete at least 2 modules, right? Or if not, I'll go with like, I'll complete the first module, then I'll go to the second one, then to the third one, right? So at
Okay.
the end of at end of the round, it's very important that you're able to run your code. I mean, have this thought in your mind that, okay, what is the end state that I'm looking at? The end state is, okay, the interviewer is going to ask me that, Alok, can you show me that you're able to park a car, right? Can you show me that it is able to do these things, right? So you can be like, okay, I built 3 features. That is a great sign that you've built 3 features and your code is running. That is very, very, very important that your code is running, right? And after this, there'll be few questions around, like I remember that I had used a array list, right? And then we had a question around, can you we do it using a hash map? Then it was around like, oh, what would be the key for the hash map, right? So I would say when you practice, ask these questions to yourself, right? That okay, I've used a array list and this is taking on time, right, to get me which car is parked where, right? So just think that if you can use a hash map, and what the key and what the value would you be picking, so that you can effectively do it, right? So these questions, again, practice is very important for machine coding rounds, and not just rote learning. Think about how you can optimize your solution, right? Your
Makes sense.
DSA knowledge and everything would come handy here, right? It's like the application of it, right? So
Correct.
yeah, this is about the machine coding round, I would say. And it's 2.5 hours, so at least prepare yourself to sit for 2.5 hours and code it, right?
Makes
Multiple
sense.
times you'll be feel like giving up, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I can relate to it. So yeah.
Right.
Okay. So
So yeah,
okay. The
this is the
next
second
round is
hiring manager, right? So this is the part where it's the fun part, I would say. Like I really like to talk to managers. So yeah, actually I myself have a lot of questions. So when I was interviewing for RazorPay, I went ahead and I googled everything. I read everything about okay, what RazorPay is doing, what RazorPay X is doing, and I had a lot of questions. Like, it isn't this very interesting to know how it manages to do these payments in the back end, right? And how are they able to manage these things? I was very curious to know these things, right? So if you start looking at like what a company is doing, maybe you will get curious about like, okay, how are they managing to do this? And maybe you can bring those questions in your interview, right? So how my round was, like initial 15 to 20 minutes, it was with my hiring manager. My hiring manager was explaining me about like a brief introduction first, and then he was explaining me about RazorPay X and RazorPay as well, right? What all work they're doing and everything. After that, it was around few behavioral questions like why RazorPay, right? And any team conflicts in the previous organization, why you want to leave the previous organizations, these questions, right? So again, this behavioral round feels like that you don't need to prepare for it, right? Everyone will like be yourself, right? But the thing is that you need to gather your thoughts, right?
yeah.
Because say I ask you about experience, that okay, how was it last time with your manager, or any team conflicts, you might not come with any good experiences if you've not thought it through earlier, right?
Correct.
So it's
Correct.
very important that you just go through them, right? So that you have that chain of thought, right, properly during that time, right? And you're not faking or something, you're just being true, but it's just that you have thought about it earlier, right? So
Correct.
it's
Correct.
good practice, yeah.
Okay.
And
So
yeah,
while we are at it, I just want to give a tip for this entire behavioral round. There are a couple of things that I'd like to add. One is, first of all, whenever you answer a behavioral question in any company, first of all, read about the company. And this is what we have been preaching so far in this entire interview or in this entire session as well. Know about company, know their principles, like leadership principles, and try to formulate your answer beyond around those principles. Apart from that, like Alok said, think about the anecdotes that you have encountered in your entire piece of experience. Like, if even if you are freshers, you would have some, or you would have done some team project or single project or something will be there, right? So come up with anecdotes. Try to write that down somewhere in a Google Doc or a Google Sheet, so that when you actually go and answer the question in interview, you have chain of thought, like you have a clarity of mind ki, haan, this is something that I want to talk about in this question. So it is very important. Apart from that, we have collated all the resources regarding behavioral round as well. I will post that in the description below. You can check out the GitHub repository. Do check that out. Star that repository if you like it, and also don't forget to subscribe the channel. Yeah,
yeah.
please
Yeah,
please continue.
I also used Karan's resources. Very good, right? So yeah, Karan helped me with some round behavioral round that I was giving, right? So yeah, definitely check them out. Yeah, and yeah, moving ahead, like behavioral questions in the hiring manager round, and you can also expect technical questions, right? So you can expect a DSA problem, or just any in general problem, like I think very very commonsensical problems also, right? Like something that is very very simple would can also be asked. But I've seen mostly like DSA related problems are asked. Like this round goes somewhere around 1 hour to 1.5 hours, right? So yeah,
Okay.
mostly if I have to highlight the points, do your research, right? Ask good questions, prepare for behavioral rounds, and your DSA should be strong, right? Because you can expect DSA problems in this round as well.
Okay. Nice. And what happens to the senior candidates like you, or maybe SD2 and SD3? Is there an
Yeah.
additional design round or something?
Yeah, so all these rounds that I've discussed will be there, and you can add a high level design round to these. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And what are the expectations in high level design, if you know, or probably if you can answer that, I'll follow up with the generic high level expectations after that.
So yeah, actually, I do not have any experience on that because I haven't taken any high level design round interviews. Yeah.
Okay. So, on an average, in any company, the expectations from high level design or the reasons of high level design is you will be given a very abstract problem, and the expectations is you should be able to come up with a system from that abstract problem, because in real world you won't have a very well defined problem every single time. You'll have to extract information out of that abstract problem and the environment that you have and build solution around it. So this is the major reason that people do high level design, and see how much can you apply whatever you have learned so far in an actual system. So expectations is you have to come up with a system, a very high level, a 10,000 feet high design of a system, where you have to connect the dots between multiple micros. If you are choosing microservice model, multiple microservices, how will they communicate, which database will you use, if you are, whether you will use a synchronous communication or asynchronous communication. In fact, there are in-depth information about these as well. We'll cover that maybe sometime in a different video altogether. So these are the basic expectations from an HLD round, and after a while we'll talk about like how can you prepare for HLD as well. So
Hmm.
thanks Alok. I'll try to basically brief down whatever we discussed so far. So the interview process looks like: one, for interns and for fresh grad, there are three rounds. First is an online assessment or a written round where you will be asked 10 MCQ questions, 10 to 20, like this is not a fixed number obviously, 10, 20, 15 kind of MCQ questions on DS and computer science fundamental, and apart from that a DSA question, and you have to do that. And then after once you clear your online assessment, the second part is machine coding round, where you have to sit for 2.5 hours, do practice, write code, or like even if you are a fresher, just work on a project for 2.5 hours so that you are used to coding for that long time, because it's not easy. It sounds easy, but it's not easy to sit for a long time. Then when you are coding, focus on completion first, not on variety or quantity. Focus on the quality first. Complete everything in the one module or one feature, then move on to the second feature, then third feature, and so on. Instead of writing 10 features incomplete, it's good to write two feature completely. So focus on completion. This is what Alok has like specially highlighted multiple times, so definitely it's very important. Then the next round is hiring manager round. In hiring manager round, you will be asked behavioral questions like why are you leaving your current company, or why do you want to join RazorPay, if there is any conflict in the past, what kind of managers have you had worked with, and all those things. Like you can look at the behavioral questions in the description. Here, do your research, follow the star format and do your research. You need to know about company to answer these questions. So do your research, and the person interviewing you, the manager, has literally at least 10 15 5 to 10 years of experience. He would have taken hundreds of interviews like you. Like he would have seen people like you or me or anyone who is interviewing. He would have taken more than 100 200 interviews. So it's very hard to fool someone, right? Especially this experienced. So do your
Hmm.
research so that they know that yeah, you are interested in this company.
Hmm.
So this is the next round. And for SG2 and above, you can expect an additional round of high level design, where you have to come up with a solution, a high level system design for a problem statement. And we have already covered how do you ace machine coding round. So for that, maybe like you can give a brief about like how to ace machine coding round in 1 or 2 minutes for the preparation part. Like how do you prepare for machine coding round?
Sure. So I'll share like someone who's starting at very, very like beginning, right? I came across this resource work at tech, right? So they have this complete article on how to prepare for machine coding rounds, right? So you can start with there, right? Because there are very, very small problems like building a snake and ladder game, right? So you can like first I would say that if you have like any knowledge about object oriented programming, which I suppose that you have if you're preparing, right? So pick that problem, right, and start solving it, right? After you do, and if you get stuck or something, like you have completed your solution, go and look at the solution and see like what good they have done, right? The variable names, how have they made the design extensible, right? Like tomorrow a new feature comes, you have to think of like, okay, I can easily plug it in, right? I'll just introduce a few more entities in my entity class, and then I can easily build new features around it, right? So these things are very, very important, right? So yeah, look forward to do look at that resource. After that, what you have to do is you have to have a bit of like understanding of how you like a little bit practice of how your building entities and thinking about relations between entities, right? So there is this resource called Groking the Object Oriented Design Interview, right, which is on Educative, right? So you can look forward to that, right, because it has a lot of questions around like designing a library management system, designing a car parking system, designing like multiple low level design questions, right? So and they talk about it from like UML diagrams are made and everything, and then they design the entities, right? So I think there the service layer is not designed. So it is kind of like a work for you. If you get all the entities design and everything and you want to change something inside it, you can do that as well. And after that, you can go ahead and build the service layer, right? And around
Okay.
the logic and everything, right? And the third resource that you can figure out, like if you're not into like reading or this, there are few YouTube channels who are really good in like talking about a machine coding around interviews and questions around that. So you can look forward to them. And I don't remember the name exactly, but if you just Google, you'll come across a few good channels definitely around machine coding round. Yeah.
Okay. So adding on to that, like along with behavioral, obviously we have a very good resource on low level design as well. In the same repository, you can find the low level design round as well. Couple of things before we move on. For low level design, there are basic things that Alok expected you to know. If you don't know about object oriented programming, go and learn about it. You should know all the basics of object oriented programming, like inheritance, abstraction, and encapsulation, polymorphism, not just in theory but the application part as well. Apart from that, there's the basic of solid principle. Like you need to learn solid principle. Then
Mhm.
design patterns are there, and then you start with the questions. You need to first learn these basics, the theoretical part, and that's when you start with these design questions and apply all the theory that you have learned. In
Yeah.
the resource that I mentioned for the low level design, I have compiled all these from multiple resources on internet. All are publicly available, free of cost available, and the questions as well. So you can check that out. And apart from that, one very good way to know how good or bad you are is by conducting mock interviews. So we at TechMaestro, in fact, Alok is also one of our interviewer. So we conduct a regular hiring drive or mock interview drive, not hiring, mock interview drive to help people succeed in their interviews and all, so by giving them a proper candid feedback on the basis of how did they perform. So probably do look out for that. Join like subscribe this channel and join our LinkedIn community so that you know when is it going to happen, and you can actually give mock interviews there as well, so that you can actually get better at interviews and low level design as well. So don't
Mhm.
forget to do that.
Definitely,
So the
definitely.
next
Market is very important. Yeah.
Okay. So the
Yeah.
next is how do you ace HLD round? Probably like I did earlier. Maybe I'll give a brief of this as well. So again, just like low level design, in high level design, the difference between low level design and high level design is in low level design you have to design classes and all. In high level design you have to design systems. Again, you have theory part here. theory like consistent hashing, sharding, partitioning, caching, security, and all. There are multiple things related to high level design or system related stuff. Then database layer and all. I have again collated resources on the entire HLD as well. Go check that out again in the same repository. So this is you need to learn HLD first, the basics first. Then the next part is actually solving the problem. So again, solve common problems like design Uber, design or design YouTube. What we are doing right now, design a YouTube live session or design anything Netflix, or there are multiple systems. We come across systems every single day like WhatsApp or anything that you can think of in your phone is a system. It is running on a server. So design that system. And apart from that, for high level design, this is something that you need to do on a regular basis in your life. So learn from the best, like how people in the industry are doing it. So read engineering blogs and white papers. They will give you perspective of how can you improve yourself. So again, this is not a 1 day or a 2 days job. This entire process takes weeks and months to get better at, in fact years to get better at. So keep reading and keep learning, and that's the only way you can get better at interview and in overall system design aspects. So
True.
yeah, this is something that I'll say about high level design. So the next part is work life balance at so from this we have concluded our interview process part. Now we'll talk a bit about his like Alok's experience in how work-life balance or how and life is at Razorpay. Although he has given very good information about that earlier, probably
Mhm.
we'll ask him to do it one more time, and then probably we'll see next. Yeah.
Mhm. So yeah, when we say work-life balance, it is not supposed to mean that you're just sitting and not doing anything, and that's work-life balance. It's more about that you are being aligned to what you like to do, or like what you are, what your expectations are, right? So let's say I have this expectation that I want to work on challenging problems, right? Or I have this expectation that I want to work on this particular project, right? And I'm given that, and I'm also given right mentorship, right? I think as engineers, it's very important that you get right mentorship. Like you don't want to be stuck and be like, okay, I cannot ask anyone, right? There's no one to help me, right? So this is something that I observed at Resume when I came here. The transparency, right? It's very, 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 very mind blowing, right? Because everything is told to be done in public channels, right? You're not like DMs are very discouraged until and unless it's something very personal, like let's say you have to share some token ID or something, right? So yeah, do it in DMs, but everything else is encouraged and to be done in public channels, which is, I love that part, right? I love that part that you get to know like what everyone else is doing, right? And it's very, very transparent. So yeah, that is one part of the work life balance. Plus if I have to talk about like last year we had a lot of holidays that were coming up on Saturdays, right? We got Friday as a holiday for all those, like Gandhi Jayanti was on Saturday, Christmas was on Saturday. We got leaves on Friday for those, right? So
Okay.
that was also like a little good thing, right? So they care a lot about your mental well-being, health well-being. Like any leaves that I've taken have never been questioned about like what leave anything, right? Because they know that we put our 100% when we're working, right? Solving those problems. It's definitely okay if you take off and come back re-energize and everything, right? And what, like these are things that people appreciate here, but and they're good. I love that whatever I've talked to my manager in my one-on-ones, like my one-on-ones with my manager are the best ones, right? I every time go and I come with a lot of clarity, right? And what the expectations are, like he understands my expectations, I understand his expectations, right? And it's a two-way thing, right? I remember that there was this one-on-one where I had shown some interest in a project that was coming up, right? And the next month I was working on that project, right? So
Okay.
that was something that I knew that okay, my manager heard it and he took care of it, right? And he has taken care of that thing, right? So I really like that small things are not like he has a lot of work, right? He handles three, four teams, right? But he took care of that. That small things, I think, go a long way in managing that work-life balance where you're like, okay, I'm valued and everything, right? So
Makes
yeah,
sense.
it's a totally great place to be at, I would say. Yeah.
Nice to hear. Like it's really good, especially the holiday part. Plus, getting appreciated for what you do. This is one of the most important aspect that will make you work even like that will align your goals with the company's goals as well. So
Mhm.
definitely.
Mhm.
So we are on almost on the edge of like finishing or wrapping up this entire interview. So
Mhm.
any last piece of advice and
Sure.
anything
So
for
there are
people
few
to
things
like
like recently, like Karan had shared it, but I would like to mention it in this video as well. That I receive a lot of resumes for referrals, right? I would urge you folks to please like make those resumes good, right? One page resumes, ATS friendly, right? I get 4 page Google Doc resumes, right? So no one wants to read them. I myself don't want to read 4 page resume and
yes,
that Google Doc, right? So
correct,
I would like request you that if you are making a resume, please put in some like try to go through the job description, right, and try to understand that what is expected. Maybe pick up some keywords from the job description and put them, right, so that your resume shines, right, it looks good and it's like concise and to the point. Do not write paras of like a story that is from your work right. We just
correct.
need points around like what, like in your like a resume also follow the star method, that this was the situation, this was the task I did, this was the outcome, right, the impact that is created, right. This is the best way to write any points in the resume as well, right. This gives a clear picture of what you get done, right.
Makes sense. So
Yeah.
yeah, uh, I personally feel there is no end to this entire like advice. I
Hmm.
have even after specifically mentioning that this is the expectations, I get a lot of referral requests where people don't even care about reading their own resume. So
Hmm.
I can understand what you are saying and I can understand the feeling as well. So definitely what I'll do is I'll take it as a request or I'll take it as an advice on like prepare a video for this as well on this YouTube channel, how to
Yeah.
prepare resume and what are some goods and bads about resumes.
Hmm. I
So
mean,
definitely,
thing that we can show a good resume and a bad resume. Yeah.
definitely I'll try to make my good and bad for my own self so
Mhm.
that I can share it. Definitely.
Yeah.
So that's about it. Thank you so much, Alok. If you
Yeah.
liked the video, if you liked this entire session, please click on the subscribe button, like on the video, and do let me and Alok know if there is something that we can help you with in the comments. And again, like I said, don't forget to subscribe on the channel. And at the last, like, thank you so much, Alok, for giving your time and taking this interview.
Yeah. Yeah. It was great. It was great talking. Yeah.
Thank you, Alok.
Yeah. Thanks, Karan. Have a nice day. Bye.